15 things British teenagers did in the 60s that would baffle today's youth. The 1960s were a wild, colorful burst of freedom for British teenagers. A decade of scooters, vinyl, fashion revolutions, and friendships built face-to-face instead of screen-to-screen. Life moved slower, but it felt impossibly exciting. Teens made plans with pen and paper, spent hours in record shops, and treated the high street like their personal fashion runway. This was the era of dance halls, jukebox cafés, and hairstyles so bold they could stop traffic. Many of the things they did every day would completely mystify today's youth, who live in a world that's faster, louder, and always online. 15. Hitchhiking. Like it was the most normal thing ever. Back in the 60s, teenagers across Britain treated hitchhiking like a casual taxi service, only free and far more unpredictable. With fewer cars on the road and a culture built on neighborly trust, sticking out your thumb on the roadside felt perfectly normal. Teens hitched rides to concerts, beaches, different towns, and sometimes across counties with nothing more than a map, confidence, and a hopeful smile. It wasn't seen as risky or rebellious. It was simply practical. Lorry drivers, local families, young workers, and students often stopped to help, turning a simple lift into a lively conversation or an unexpected friendship. Modern teenagers, raised in an era of ride-share apps, detailed safety guidelines, and GPS tracking, would have trouble imagining a world where travel depended entirely on the kindness of passing strangers. But in the 60s, hitchhiking was part adventure, part necessity, and entirely normal. 14. Spending entire afternoons in record shops. Record shops were the heartbeat of teenage culture. Every weekend, teens crowded into shops like HMV, Woolworths, or smaller local independents to flip through new releases, compare album covers, and argue passionately about which band truly ruled the charts. Some shops had listening booths, small wooden rooms where you could try a record before buying it. Stepping inside felt like entering a sacred space. There was no skipping tracks, no shuffle button, just pure vinyl magic. Teens saved up to buy a 45 RPM single, or a beloved LP, then carried it home like treasure. Today's youth, who can stream a million songs instantly, would be baffled by the patience, effort, and ritual behind choosing music in the 60s. 13. Dressing up just to walk down the high street. Fashion wasn't casual, it was competitive. Whether you were a mod in sharp suits, a rocker in leather, or simply someone who loved bold colors and crisp silhouettes, getting ready was almost an art form. Teens would spend hours ironing shirts, polishing shoes, teasing hair, and perfecting every detail before stepping out. Why? Because Saturday on the high street was the show. You walked, you looked, you were seen. Friends gathered, couples flirted, and everyone sized up the newest trends. It was a real-life social feed long before digital timelines existed. Today's youth might scroll. 60s teens strolled. 12. Hanging out in coffee bars for hours. Coffee bars were the unofficial teen headquarters of the decade. The decor was simple: small tables, low stools, formica counters. But these places buzzed with life. Teens gathered to chat, flirt, listen to the jukebox, and watch the world go by. Some cafés even let local bands perform. Legends like the Beatles, the Kinks, and the Who all started in tiny venues before fame struck. Coffee bars were cheap, friendly, and open late, perfect for young people who wanted independence without spending much. Today's youth, used to quick-service cafes and fast Wi-Fi, might struggle to imagine how magical a single cup of coffee could be. 11. sharing one telephone for the entire house. If a 60s teen wanted to make a call, they had to wait their turn, because homes usually had just one landline mounted in the hallway. Privacy was nearly impossible. You whispered. You turned away from the kitchen door. You prayed your mom didn't quietly pick up the extension to make sure everything was all right. And long-distance calls? Expensive. You kept them short. Today's youth, who send hundreds of messages a day without speaking out loud, would be shocked to learn how public and limited teenage communication once was. 10. Dancing nonstop at Saturday night hops. Dance halls were the playground of teenage Britain. On Saturday nights, these halls filled with live bands, pounding rhythms, and crowds of teens dancing until their legs gave out. Entry was cheap, the music was loud, and the atmosphere felt electric. These events weren't run by corporations or major promoters. They were local, community-based, often held in church halls, town centers, and youth clubs. If you and your friends showed up early, you might catch the band setting up. Today's youth, used to sleek venues, laser lights, and digital tickets, might be surprised how simple but joyful these nights were. 9. Saving pocket money, all week just to buy a new single. Music was expensive in the 60s, so teens planned their purchases carefully. Many saved pocket money, skipped snacks, or did small jobs just to afford a new record. When you finally bought that single, you played it repeatedly, sometimes until the vinyl wore thin. There was something beautiful about working for your music. It wasn't disposable or endless, it was something you earned. And when a group of friends got together with their collections, it felt like a party. Today's generation would have a hard time imagining the thrill of owning just one song. 8. Following bands through newspapers and magazines. If you wanted band updates, tour dates, interviews, new releases, you didn't check social media. You bought magazines like Melody Maker, Record Mirror, or NME. These publications were teenage lifelines. Teens cut out pages, pinned band photos to their walls, and carried articles in school bags until they fell apart. News didn't travel instantly. You waited for the next issue, read it cover to cover, then passed it around your friend group. Modern teens might struggle to understand that the entire nation learned music news at the same time, once a week, in print. 7. Riding around on scooters in mod groups. Scooter culture was iconic. The mods transformed Vespa and Lambretta scooters into rolling works of art, mirrors, badges, immaculate paintwork, and customized seats. Groups of teens rode through towns in long lines, the engines humming in smooth unison. It wasn't just transport, it was identity. Weekend rides took teens to seaside towns like Brighton or Margate, where groups gathered for photos, music, and style comparisons. Today's youth might think of scooters as quirky or retro, but in the 60s, they were powerful symbols of belonging and freedom. 6. Watching whatever TV offered, with no way to replay it. Early 60s, Britain had only two channels, BBC and ITV, and color TV didn't become common until the end of the decade. Shows aired once. If you missed something, that was it. No replay, no recording, no on-demand. Families gathered around small black and white sets and sometimes fiddled endlessly with the aerial to fix the picture. Teenagers today, spoiled by streaming libraries and instant access, would be stunned by how limited TV used to be. 5. Creating hairstyles that could survive a windstorm. Teen hair in the 60s was dramatic. Girls wore beehives, bouffants, and heavy backcomb styles that required an entire arsenal of hairspray. Boys used Brill cream to slick hair into perfect waves or quiffs. Maintaining these looks took time, effort, and patience. You couldn't just roll out of bed and leave the house. Your hair had to be constructed. Modern teens, accustomed to casual styling, would be baffled by the dedication required. 4. Sending handwritten notes to arrange plans. Before phones were common and messages were instant, teens passed handwritten notes through doors, school bags, or friends to organize meetups. Planning a night out required trust. No last-minute changes, no group chats, no location sharing. You simply agreed on a time and place and hoped everyone arrived. It sounds slow and unreliable to young people today, but in the 60s, it built excitement. Every plan felt like a mini-adventure. 3. Spending hours in seaside arcades, playing early pinball machines. Arcades in the 60s were far simpler than today's digital gaming halls. Pinball machines clattered, chimed, and flashed with mechanical magic. No screens, no software, just springs, lights, and pure reflexes. Teenagers flocked to seaside towns during weekends or holidays to play these games endlessly, competing for high scores. To modern teens raised on console gaming, complex graphics, and global multiplayer servers, these simple machines might feel ancient, but they were loved deeply. 2. Waiting all week to hear the top 40 on the radio. Sunday evening's chart countdown was a weekly ritual. Families tuned in, teens leaned close to the radio, and the country collectively held its breath as songs rose or fell in the rankings. Many teens recorded the show by holding a microphone up to the speaker, capturing every crackle and cheer. There were no replays and no instant uploads. You listened live or missed out. Today's youth would be stunned that a whole nation waited 7 days to hear new hits. 1. Living full social lives without taking a single photo. Perhaps the most baffling thing of all, teens lived entire lives without documenting anything. No selfies, no group photos, no videos from nights out. Cameras were expensive, film had limits, and developing photos took time. Most teenage memories existed only in stories and hearts. Imagine friendships, first loves, and iconic outfits with no digital evidence whatsoever. For today's youth, whose lives are photographed constantly, this is almost unimaginable. But in the 60s, living in the moment wasn't a trend. It was simply how life worked. Teenagers in 1960s, Britain lived boldly, simply, and fully offline. Their world was slower but rich with connection, creativity, and real-life adventure. From hitchhiking to dance halls, coffee bars to vinyl hunts, their habits feel wonderfully strange today, yet they shaped a generation that embraced freedom in unforgettable ways. Thank you for watching this video. Please don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell.